or it's a good morning, good night, depending on where you tuned in from. But welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back from that wonderful fixture between Arsenal and PSG. Of course, PSG coming out on top of the Arsenal. They are beating them by a goal to nil. A goal scored in the 4th minute of the game by Ousmane Dembele was enough to secure the advantage for PSG ahead of that return leg fixture that does come next week on Wednesday. I think that will be what, 5th? Is it? No, sorry, on 7th May. That's next month or early into next month. But it was a very entertaining game and a very dominant performance from the visitors there. I thought Luis Enrique outsmarted and outplayed Mikel Arteta as far as things go. Really, his experience did show there, and his experience did show there, and it was there for everybody to see and witness, because in the second half, it was more about game management and choosing your moments, and PSG did that really effortlessly well, I thought overall. And we're going to be speaking in the context of that result. So I'll be waiting for you to join me. Let's wait for others to join us on this broadcast, and we see what that meant for Arsenal, what it means for Arsenal going into the second leg, what it means for PSG, the kind of confidence it gives them that they can really, advance to the finals, but also how do they not get carried away with that result. Arsenal getting beat at the Emirates Stadium in the UEFA Champions League for the first time this season. Pretty much a result, I must say, I did not see coming. But given the way the game went, yes, Arsenal will think they would have gotten a goal out of this game, but PSG will feel they would have scored more than one as well to give themselves an even bigger advantage before the second leg, because now Arsenal have a whole mountain to climb prior to that second leg. It's not impossible, everything is still possible, but they will go there knowing that they have been outplayed. So thank you guys for joining the broadcast. You're welcome. If you're new here or a usual suspect, kindly like the broadcast. Let's engage. Guys, tell me where you're tuning in from. How are you guys doing? Let's engage. Let's engage. Let's engage. I'm waiting for you guys. Ask your questions. Tell me where you joining in from. How did you enjoy that game? Yes, I can see Niraj here. Kalu joining in from Kalu. Is that a place, Niraj? Hey Niraj, how are you doing? How has been your day? Tell me more about your day. How are you doing? How are you doing? I hope you guys are doing well. Yes, he says he's good. I'm good as well. Guys who are on the broadcast, kindly like the broadcast. Share with us what you did witness in that game. Give us your thoughts before we delve much into what we've just witnessed at the Emirates Stadium. So yes, like the broadcast, I can see we have so far 14 on the broadcast. Only 2 people have liked the broadcast. So kindly like, give us your comments, your greetings, your shout outs to whoever you want to give your shout outs to. But it's a UEFA Champions League night. So I want to hear from you, because our channel is by the fans, for the fans. So really, your feedback is really important. But I thought it was a very good game overall. Arsenal showcased their sort of defensive solidity, but that's not to say that PSG did not poke holes into it. You could see Mikel Arteta looked devoid of ideas on what he could do to change his fortunes in that game, and really, he didn't feel that there was anything much he could do. He looked onto his bench, and it was as blunt as a knife would, and a very old knife would come, or a pencil with a broken lead, kind of. That's how it felt for him. So give me your thoughts, guys. Are you an Arsenal fan? Are you a PSG fan? Are you a football fan? Are you just somebody that follows the game? So, like I said, uh, Usman Dembele's fourth minute goal was enough to win, to give PSG the advantage going, that 1-0 advantage going into the second leg. The assist being provided by Kivicha Kvaratskhelia, who was a nightmare in the first half for Jurriën Timber, although in the second half, he barely had a sniff because Jurriën Timber kept him at bay. Ben White was late brought on in the game because, again, Timber was sort of cramped up. Maybe he looked tired even when as he walked off. Then the other final change for Arsenal, of course, was Ethan Nwaneri, too late, brought in two at a time. A time too little for him to even make an impact, although he had a slight impact, but Gabriel Martinelli could not capitalize on the moment. Gianluigi Donnarumma doing enough to keep PSG into that game. Arsenal thought they had equalized from a set piece, Mikel Merino scoring, but that goal was ruled out for offside because he was just really in an offside position before scoring. But he had sent the Emirates Stadium wild, and when that goal was cancelled, the Emirates Stadium went into graveyard silence. All you could hear were the bugs kind of noises that were coming from the PSG end there. And that's what it felt like for me following the game. But PSG, first 20 minutes of the game, dominated all the affairs of the game. They were on top of that game when it came to attacking, when it came to ball possession. But what made it best in all throughout the game for me, I thought, was the way in which they were fighting to win the ball back. They won all their duels. They fought for every 50-50 ball, something that I do think Arsenal did not do well enough on the night. They did not fight for those 50-50 balls. They did not give themselves much of a chance when it came to fighting for those loose balls, the 50-50s, and that kind of thing. So that's where PSG got the better of them. Overall possession, again, yes, Arsenal tried to try to dominate the ball in the second half, but again, you felt that they lacked the drive. Like I said during our halftime broadcast, they missed the presence of Thomas Partey in that midfield, who, by the way, by anything injury concerns, he will be available for the return leg, which will be very crucial. And then you'll have Declan Rice playing as an 8. We saw one moment in which he went into that drive that he normally does from deep in the midfield onto the forward lines to play in somebody. And on that occasion, I think played in Gabriel Martinelli, and who forced Gianluigi Donnarumma into a brilliant save. So PSG were the dominant side in the first 23 minutes of the game. They were really going at Arsenal, the dominating play. They were really, when it came to beating the Arsenal press, they were really beating it well. But once we went past the half-hour mark of the first half, then Arsenal started to pick themselves up. They started getting back into play. And by the end of the first half, they were on top of the game. They were creating the better scoring opportunities. Unfortunately, in one occasion, in one or two occasions, Gianluigi Donnarumma coming to the rescue of PSG to deny Arsenal that any slight opportunity of getting back into the game early. Now, one of the advantages that early fourth minute goal gave PSG was that it sort of quietened the Emirates Stadium. It sort of kept them from creating that electric moment, that noisy moment, something that won't be the case when Arsenal goes to back the first, because those French fans are as passionate as they come. And it won't matter if Arsenal go to Paris Saint-Germain and get that early goal. I do not think that will be enough to quieten the fans. While it would be an advantage for Arsenal, it won't be, the case won't be as it has been today when it came to the Arsenal crowd. You saw in different moments David Raya trying to rally them up, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Martinelli, Mikel Arteta himself trying to do it for himself. You know, Arsenal fans inside that stadium, every time they go down or their team is not really playing to the best of their abilities or to their expectations, they tend to feel like luxury fans or rich people. You know, when you invite a rich person to support you in a contest, if you're winning and you're performing well, they will be really shouting. They will be, in your corner. But if they feel you're not at your best or you're in a losing position, they'll sit back and sort of quiet a little bit. But of course, in the final minutes, the stadium tried to, get back noisy. But again, it felt a little too late to inspire the crowd, the team. So many things did go right. Uh, PSG kept that Arsenal backline on the back foot that they could not even invert. Their fullbacks could not invert. The amount of times Miles Lewis Kelly was able to invert and come into that midfield, those times were quite really limited, as opposed to how he was able to do it in previous fixtures for Arsenal. So, but overall, it was a 52% possession for PSG versus Arsenal's 48, and these statistics are according to live score. When it came to shots on goal, Arsenal had, I thought, Arsenal had the majority no, sorry, PSG had the majority of those because they had as many as 10. 4 were on target, 6 were off target, while Arsenal had 2 off target and 5 on target, so they had 7. Again, in the final minutes of the game, then there was a very brilliant ball recovery or tackle by William Saliba on Achraf Hakimi. As he went on, he almost scored because it appeared he would have beaten David Raya in that moment. And again, that kept the scoreline 1-0. Then you had another moment in which Bakola went through, and unfortunately, that his opportunity went wide of the mark, slightly wide of the post. And then you had another opportunity by the Portuguese international in Goncalo Ramos. That one hit the crossbar. Again, Arsenal survived. Now, if there's any positive that Arsenal will take in this return leg, is the fact that they've only conceded 1 goal. And that's not, while it is a mountain to climb when you go away to Paris Saint-Germain, it's not undoable because practically that's what PSG themselves did against Liverpool, because Liverpool beat them by a 1-0 at Parc des Princes. They came to Anfield and won that game by a 1-0. And after extra time, game went into penalties, and that's how PSG managed to advance to the quarterfinals, where they went on to face Aston Villa. For everything that we had said, Vitinha, oh my God, what a player in that midfield, was quite sensational. João Neves, I mean, he kept on nicking balls of Arsenal players. You know when you think you have the ball in your stride, and suddenly, just in a nick of time, the opponent player nicks that ball away from you. João Neves was always that player, nicking that ball off the feet of Arsenal players. There was an incident, I think, with Pierre Trossard, another with Bukayo Saka. I mean, but Vitinha controlled that midfield, dictated the play in that midfield. Fabian Ruiz, they were all sensational, that midfield. Then on the left-hand side, I thought on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Nuno Mendes a 7.5 or even an 8 for managing to keep Bukayo Saka largely quiet. Oftentimes, he forced him to move inside a little too early than he would have wanted, and that kind of thing. And down on the side of Achraf Hakimi, I thought Gabriel Martinelli wasn't so involved in the thick of the game to keep on probing Achraf Hakimi, and that had everything to do with Arsenal's lack of domination in that midfield play, because even with their possession, you will be surprised that oftentimes they are pushed into passing it sideways and oftentimes backwards. In some cases, Arsenal felt like they did not have the urgency to run forward and try and, and the reason particularly for that was not that they wouldn't have wanted to do it, but they knew the risk it carried if they just go forward and try to attack PSG with everything they had, because then they risked, giving away moments like we saw with Bradley Bakola, with Goncalo Ramos, and that kind of thing. But early into the second half, like I said, Arsenal thought they had restored parity of that Declan Rice free kick with Mikel Merino and nodding home the header, but it was ruled out by VAR for offside. Then Leandro Trossard in the 55th minute there had a brilliant attempt, and I think that's the one that forced Gianluigi Donnarumma into a wonderful save. And then you had, like I said, that PSG front three, they really kept the Arsenal backline on their toes. Guys, if you're new to the broadcast, kindly leave me a like, kindly leave me a comment. Let's engage on here. And if you're new to the channel, that you're visiting us for the first time, kindly consider subscribing so that we can continue to grow our community. Let me know where you're, tuned in from, and let's engage. Let's engage. I can see we have some of you here. Let's continue to engage. Leave me a comment, leave me a like on the broadcast. So, and in that moment, yes, it was Leandro Trossard that forced Gianluigi Donnarumma into a save. You had, for the first time in the game, that was around the 55th minute, you had Declan Rice do that run, the burst that he does from deep in midfield and run into the forward lines and attacking opponents. Something that Arsenal lacked all throughout the game, because Declan Rice was playing as the pivot player, the deep line midfielder, which did not really play into the advantage of Arsenal for any moment of the game. And that's why I keep saying that kind of concept play will be really, really crucial for this return leg. Whether Arsenal would have welcomed back more players from injury by that time remains to be seen. Maybe, if anything, the only one that may be closer to a return would be Ricardo Carafiori, but he didn't even make training this weekend. This week. So, I mean, it's a bit of a long shot. Arsenal do have a date on the weekend with AFC Bournemouth. Before then, they travel to France. But I thought that was a key moment in the game. So then you had Urian Timber, and Urian Timber was kept so busy he couldn't also invert. He did his best. I thought he was really, really defensively solid. Kivica Kvaratskhelia gave him a lot of trouble in the opening 20 minutes, but as he grew into the game, he managed to contain him. And keep him at bay and limit his threat. But then in the 82nd minute, that's where you had the chance of Bradley Bacola there, a second half substitute for PSG. And then in the 84th minute, you had Gonzalo Ramos. Now just imagine if PSG had scored one of those, how big a mountain would it be even for Arsenal to climb to go and win it at Parc de France and give themselves a chance to go to Munich in the finals. So it remains to be seen. I have a strange feeling, or a gut feeling, that tells me that whoever advances between Arsenal and PSG, which is increasingly looking likely that it will be PSG, will go on to win the final, because both Arsenal and PSG have never won it. That's one thing. They've never won it. Two, Inter Milan and Barcelona, those ones have won it before. Barcelona have won it 5 times, Inter Milan have won it 3 times. I think in 61-62 and 62-63, those 2 seasons, Inter Milan won it back to back and then won it back in 2010. Barcelona won it in 2015, won it in 2011 and 2009, and as well as 2006. When they were under the charges of Frank Rijkaard. So really, those were really memorable as seen. So Barcelona have won it as many as 5 times before. When it came to fouls, both sides committed 15 fouls. Arsenal committed the most offsides. That was as many as 4. They had the most corner kicks, as many as 3, compared to PSG's only 1, and that kind of thing. So but overall, it was really, really a dominant play from PSG. It was largely a technical and tactical game. Both sides were too tactical, but PSG better at that. Like I said, the second half for PSG was largely about game management. Avoid conceding, avoid giving away too much spaces or chances, and then look to to catch them on the break or capitalize on any Arsenal mistakes in that back line should they commit any. And I remember in one incident, I think Jakub Kivio had a poor clearance that led to PSG winning the ball back in that moment and almost squad. So, but do not forget, tomorrow it is Barcelona versus Inter Milan there for the second time of the semifinals of the UEFA Champions League in the road to Munich. In the road to Munich. So, guys, do let me know what your thoughts were. What did you perceive of the game? What was your key moment of the game? Do you think Arsenal have a chance going into the second leg, or you think they're as good as done there? Personally, I do not think they're as good as done, but I think their chances are now very limited. I think it is a 65-35% chance ratio for PSG to go through or at the expense of Arsenal, given the display that they've shown us in the first leg and going away to win a game. I do not remember any team that has come to the Emirates Stadium in Western time and outplayed Arsenal the manner in which PSG were able to do, because that midfield trio of Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, and João Neves, I thought were quite sensational. Kivica Kvaratskhelia, especially in the first half, Ousmane Dembele and Desire Doué forcing David Raya into a save in the first half, and that kind of thing. Their backline was pretty solid, Marquinhos and William Pacho, and then you had, of course, Nuno Mendes and Achraf Hakimi, and then, of course, Gianluigi Donnarumma pulling off, I think, 3 brilliant saves in the course of the game that really kept PSG in that game. I think the early goal, mentally or psychologically, there's a way kind of frustrated Arsenal and their game plan and everything. But on the touchline or on the bench, Mikel Arteta looked devoid of ideas. He didn't know who to look to on that bench of his for a player to be brought on to change their fortunes. Again, that's why his substitutions were very late on in the game, bringing on Ben White and then Ethan Nwaneri, because, I mean, he looked at Zinchenko, can he impact the game? No, given the way PSG were attacking them, he thought it could be a defensive vulnerability. I thought at some point in the game, Mikel Arteta considered that they would rather lose by goal to nil than concede more goals, as in an attempt of him trying to go out all for it. So and that's why he did not make the desired changes at the time. So, but again, you do ask yourself that what changes would he have made? He had his 11 best soldiers out there. No one on the bench would sort of match those that were on the pitch. Maybe Ethan Nwaneri, but again, like I said, he was brought on very late on in the game, and he did not have much time to create impact. Although he had moment in which he created a chance for Gabriel Martinelli, but Gabriel Martinelli, in a panic moment, lacked the composure to even drive that shot on target, so it was way off the target in that attempt. So, brilliant game of football, and we'll continue to discuss it and more tomorrow in tomorrow morning's broadcast at around anywhere between 10 and 11 a.m. That's when we usually look to do our live broadcasts. But before I let you guys go, let's look at some of the reaction online and see the kind of reaction that is there. By the way, this is PSG's first win at the Emirates Stadium after 3 meetings there. Yes, this was their 3rd meeting at the Emirates Stadium. But I thought, again, one of those players that lacked impact in the game was Arsenal captain Martin Odegaard. I thought he had a bad game. He did not rise to the occasion. And remember, when we were speaking about the starting lineups, again, in the preamble or in the preview to this game, I told you guys that if Arsenal were to have a chance of winning this game, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka needed to rise above the occasion, needed to rise above any brilliant performances that any other Arsenal player would offer. But I thought both of them did not do that. But more so Martin Odegaard was really did not really have a good night, in my opinion, unless you guys have a different opinion. But Ousmane Dembele quite there. A standout player because of that goal that they get to take into the return leg. I think one of the training conversations is Thomas Partey. Arsenal lacked that balance in midfield and had no out ball up top without Kai Havertz or Mikel Merino. They lacked that, and this is something we spoke about even at halftime. That Arsenal lacked that midfield presence of Thomas Partey, somebody that wins you back the ball, somebody that leaves the drive that goes up front, because usually Thomas Partey looks to play a pass in the forward direction as opposed to a back pass. He really gives Arsenal so much advantage when he does play in that midfield. And we did get to see him in the stands watching the game, seated alongside the likes of Kai Havertz there, as well as, and then we got to see Ricardo Carafiori somewhere in the game. And this is Daniel Sturridge saying, I really feel that the yellow card for Partey really hurt Arsenal tonight. No Partey, no Partey. Yes, that's what he had to say. We're looking at some of the views here. Full-time score. We are just going to have a win in Paris. We can do that. Partey will be back. Those are his thoughts. But no one in the current Arsenal team can play the Thomas Partey role. That's very true. I think it's even become more evident in the aftermath of that game. And every Arsenal fan out there, even those that are not Arsenal fans, to agree that Arsenal did miss Thomas Partey in that midfield today. Partey back, Merino up front, annoying result, but enough to salvage in France. That's from Babs 14. For those of you that know him, he's a really popular, one of those popular Arsenal fans on X and as well as on YouTube. Then let's read some comments here on Martin Odegaard. There was no captain. That was not a captain's performance, indeed, and everybody's pretty much what we just said about him. He really didn't look like the player that you would expect on such a big night. 0 assists for goals, 0 shots, 1 out of 6 dribbles completed. That's in attempted dribbles. Then you had duels won only 2 out of 8. For lost possession 14 times. That's how bad a night he did have. And that's according to some numbers here being provided. I do not know how factual those very numbers are to the letter of them, but at least that does kind of paint for us the picture of the kind of night he had. And of course, every time he has a bad game, I think Manchester United fans are the first to the floor to do that Bruno Fernandes Martin Odegaard comparison on the night. And if in any case, if you had to pick out a standout player on the Arsenal side, I think Kieran Timber would be one of those. Although that penalty call or shout in the 15th minute that he had when he wrapped his hand around Kivica Kvaratskhelia and then his upper shoulder sort of getting the knock into Kivica Kvaratskelia's really will be a big talking point for Paris Saint-Germain fans, maybe for the rest of the footballing world. I thought, for me, he does withdraw that hand early enough to give himself the benefit of doubt that it's not a penalty. But like I said during the halftime, review, that it wouldn't have been heinous or the referee wouldn't have been crucified should he have gone on to give that penalty. So that's some of what's trending. Let's look here at the Arsenal PSG hashtag and see. They say first leg is ours. See you Wednesday at Parc. That's Parc de France. It will be at an electric environment out there. Trust me. They will be up for it. Forget loyalty and blah blah blah. Martinelli should be out of this football club next season. That's one of the angry fans reacting to the defeat that they just suffered, losing to Paris Saint-Germain by 1-0. And then Vitinha, being handed man of the match. Indeed, he was dominant. He bossed that midfield like no other. He really did the job that needed to be done. For everything that that Arsenal fans wanted Martin Odegaard or Declan Rice to do, it was Vitinha that ended up doing it. Really impressive. And then PSG's Donnarumma has now made 12 saves during this season's UEFA Champions League games in England. 2 versus Liverpool, I think 4 versus Aston Villa, and another 4 versus Arsenal. That is according to FIFA World Cup stats. That's the username, but let me see. The handle is Alimo Field. Yes, that's from Alimo Field. There, what he's telling us. We are half an hour into the broadcast, so allow me to wrap it here, guys, and wish you a wonderful night. We'll continue to engage tomorrow, but just know Martin Odegaard was not sure in that midfield. He was really absent. I thought Mikel Merino really tried, but he didn't look comfortable against PSG, where the better side in dominating that midfield. So allow me to wrap it here and wish you a wonderful night. See you guys tomorrow when we get into that morning broadcast to digest this result a little bit further and what it may mean for the return leg, but also that fixture between Barcelona and Inter Milan will be another of our talking points come tomorrow morning. Stay blessed and have yourselves a good night. Bye-bye.